the afternoon shift. It's Thursday, February 12th. I'm Adam Lorenz.
I'm Max Fuller.
And Max, it's been a very busy news day, and there's a huge headline, kind of a day that a lot of people have been waiting for, an official announcement that ICE's Operation Metro Surge is finally coming to an end. Not now, but is coming to an end very shortly.
Yeah, and a lot of people are skeptical, taking Border Czar Tom Homan at his word. But I think if we do, it's a really good day.
Absolutely, we're going to be. Tom Homan spoke early this morning. We're going to play back what he had to say, and then Governor Walz also responded to Mr. Homan as well, and we're going to play that back as well.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, we got that, and then Rob Olson will be joining us to talk about those two things. And then we're also going to play back Attorney General Keith Ellison and Minnesota Department of Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell had a Senate hearing, and things got a little feisty between Senator Josh Hawley and Keith Ellison. So we're going to play back a bit of that portion on Capitol Hill.
Interesting. A little bit of Jerry Springer-esque drama in the middle of the show.
It was
soap operatic.
It was making some headlines on Twitter. If you were out there, it got feisty between the two of them.
I'm interested. I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. So there's that, and then the Super Bowl ad that everybody's talking about, the Ring surveillance ad. We're going to be talking to Lisa Martin, a tech strategist, a really immediate expert to help us break down what that means for everything.
Yeah, I know a lot of people had a lot of strong reactions, myself included, to that Ring ad, and obviously Ring is in the news for other reasons as well, with the Ring camera footage of the possible abductors of Nancy Guthrie's mother.
Yes. So we'll be talking all things in that and more. And then the Olympics, we're going to do some hockey talk with Jesse Pierce. Team USA, they were up. I don't know what the latest score is there, but they were up on Latvia. That game the puck just dropped about an hour ago now. That's their first match. They'll play another match on Saturday, but Jesse Pierce will be talking about hockey.
Yeah, for sure. Lots of NHL guys making their Olympic debut, because a lot of us have forgotten. This is the first time NHL players have been allowed to play in the Olympics in 12 years. So lots of guys making their Olympic debut for the U.S. and Canada and probably some other nations too.
Yeah, I think a lot of people just assume that the Olympics has always been dominated by professionals, and kind of like basketball. Well, basketball hasn't always. It's really the early 90s, but that hasn't always been the case with hockey. 1980, those were just amateur players that were out there.
Yeah, for sure. And I feel like the last 12 years, it's been a lot of college guys, a lot of, semi-pro guys, I'm sure. But now the NHL, the real stars are back on the grandest stage, and I'm excited to see them in action.
Yes, absolutely. And then don't forget about the women. They got a quarterfinal match against host nation Italy tomorrow happening. So all of that and more. A couple of quick headlines here. Another big news item is the temperatures outside are just glorious. Yeah. 42 degrees and sun. And it's actually going to heat up even more this weekend. Tomorrow's high, 49, 48, 49 again. Got some spring-esque weather coming here.
No, this is spring. This is dang near summertime. I mean, it feels good. It feels really good outside. I was sweating walking around. I mean, it's like, take your jacket off. I know Minnesotans, there's some people taking their jackets off today. There's people hooping outside. People throwing a little something on the grill. It feels good. All relative. It wouldn't feel great if you're coming from the summertime to this weather, but coming out of we've been this giant cold stretch for like a month and a half straight. Every day was just excruciatingly cold. To have a little bit of sunlight and a little bit of warm temperatures, I don't mind it. But there's always a fake spring. You've been in Minnesota long enough, you probably know there's always a fake spring, and then the temperatures drop right back down to being excruciatingly low, and then they'll drop back up, and then there's at least two fake springs usually. But we'll see.
Yeah, I saw next Thursday it's going to snow, so it varies like that. Another big item, the Twins, the pitchers and catchers, we talked about them yesterday. The pitchers and catchers reported today to the spring training HQ in Fort Myers, Florida. The Twins announced they had signed Dodgers relief pitcher Anthony Banda, two-time World Series champion. This is a big signing for the Twins. I'm not saying that facetiously. It really is a big signing for the Twins. And they got Liam Hendriks from Paul's home country of Australia as well. Yeah. Two guys. These are big bullpen signings for the Twins.
For sure. Liam Hendriks, absolutely. Tell me a little bit more about the other guy.
Anthony Banda, fan favorite. The ladies of Los Angeles absolutely love him. There's a very famous photo of him taking his shirt off during the World Series parade. But this guy was one of Dave Roberts' lockdown guys. He was never a ninth inning guy, but a seventh, eighth inning guy from Corpus Christi, Texas. Just really kind of dove into the culture of Los Angeles. Yeah. It's going to be a little bit different, I think, for him here. But I think here he's going to have a chance to potentially be the closer, to potentially take on that role that Johan Duran had for the Twins last season and seasons before. So I think this is a really good signing for the Twins to bring in Anthony Banda, and a guy that the Dodger fans just absolutely adored and loved. And there was just no more. I mean, there's just so much riches that they have in the bullpen now that they just had to. Kind of
right.
Somebody
can't sign everybody.
You can't sign everybody.
Contrary to popular belief.
Correct. Yeah. So Anthony Banda, I wish him the best, and I'm really happy that he's going to be here. I'd love to chat with him at some point. I'm really pumped for him. He wears these goggles, these glasses.
Yeah, he's got some sweet goggles, a sweet stash. Sounds like he's got a sweet arm too.
He's got a great arm.
Yeah, depleted kind of bullpen after all the different trades over the last year and some change. So hopefully he comes in and makes a difference. Like you said, he's got a perfect opportunity to be one of the guys, if not the guy, when it comes to closing out games. Because we could use a new fan favorite. Losing Duran, losing the entrance, losing that whole bit.
Yes.
So it's a little deflating as a Twins fan. So we could use a new fan favorite.
Absolutely. I know something else that's going to be a fan favorite with the Twins. $2 beers before first pitch every Friday and Saturday home game.
For sure.
$2 beer. It's
amazing.
Every game.
They're pulling
Friday
out
and Saturdays.
all the stops to try to get people in the games. I've seen ticket price. I've even seen like the Twins Pass. It's basically a season ticket.
Right.
All the home games, over 80 home games, something like that. You can. It's like $200.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. They're pulling out all the stops because they know that fan interest is at an all-time low, and they know people don't have super high expectations for this team. And even last year, when there was some high expectations. And we saw it. Those stadiums weren't very full.
That's right.
A lot of those it kind of popped back up in the middle summer months, but in general, it was pretty low attendance for when it comes to the Twins. So they're trying to get people in the stadium and butts in seats, and $2 beers is a damn good way to do so.
It sure is. And I mean that's a reason enough to get to the ballpark early. And I think they're smart. You're going to spend the $2 on the beer, but then you're going to get the $8 hot dog, and so it's smart. But I think it's a genius move by the Twins, and I'm excited to hit some games very early. We're not that far away. We're less than 2 months away from opening day, so all exciting stuff coming from the Twins today.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll keep it here in Minnesota. We said it's the big headline today. Border Czar Tom Homan making this announcement, and we're going to play back this presser that he held this morning in full.
Yeah, it was the biggest news. The news, like you said, that a lot of people in Minnesota, pretty much everybody in Minnesota has been anticipating. We're expecting an ice drawdown. Operation Metro Surge is over, according to Border Czar Tom Homan.
Good morning. I'm Tom Homan, the Border Czar President Trump. I'm going to read a statement real quick. Then after I read the statement, I'll take questions. I'm here with Sam Molson, Director of ICE and Enforcement Mover Operations for the St. Paul Field Office. Stephen Schrenk, Acting Special Agent in charge for ICE Homeland Security Investigations. And Chris Kuhn, Deputy Chief Patrol Agent for the United States Border Patrol. I'm very pleased to report that this surge operation and our work here with state and local officials to improve coordination and achieve mutual goals, as well as our efforts to address issues of concern here on the ground, have yielded the successful results we have came here for. The Twin Cities and Minnesota in general are and will continue to be much safer for the communities here because of what we have accomplished under President Trump's leadership. I previously shared with you before I got here. Before I even got here, I met with, I said I was going to meet with the governor, the AG, and the Mayor Fry, Mayor Herr, and I've done all of that. I've also met with various police chiefs and sheriffs, and one thing we all had in common was the importance of ensuring and maintaining public safety. Overall, we made a lot of progress through extensive engagement, meeting with them and other key stakeholders. And it is expected that those engagements and discussions will continue going forward in order to enhance exchange of information and more coordination. As a result of this surge operation, we have greatly reduced the number of targets for enforcement action. And many criminal aliens have been arrested and taken off the streets, including murderers, sex offenders, national security threats, gang members, and other violent criminals. Just this week, ICE arrested a criminal alien with criminal convictions for rape, acts with a child under 14 years of age with force, lewd and lascivious acts with a child under 14. ICE also arrested 2 criminal aliens with criminal sexual misconduct convictions. among other violent criminals. Through targeted enforcement operations based on reasonable suspicion and prioritizing safety and security, ICE will continue to identify, arrest, and remove illegal aliens that pose a risk to public safety, like we've done for years. And our officers will carry out those duties with professionalism, integrity, and compassion, like we've done for years. We will enforce the immigration law against all persons in the United States illegally. I want to say something about the various unfounded complaints I'm hearing about ICE enforcement operations. During the surge operation, ICE has not arrested anybody inside a hospital. We have not arrested anybody inside of a school, an elementary school. We have not arrested anybody inside a church. As a matter of fact, the only ones that disrespected the sanctuary of a church were the agitators that have been arrested and prosecuted, and so far we have 9 of them. However, those locations are not off the table. I said from day one, there's no sanctuary for a significant public safety threat or national security threat. But as far as those stories about ICE going into churches and arresting people in hospitals, it simply has not happened. And if you have a case where it happened, you let me know. Because all the digging I've done here, I can't find a single one. Under President Trump's direction, we have obtained an unprecedented level of coordination with law enforcement officials that is focused on promoting public safety across the entire state. While I don't agree with Governor Walz and Attorney General Ellis on everything, I appreciate the support the governor gives to state agencies who coordinate with us in a manner intended to promote public safety. And I appreciate the AG having an open dialogue with me. Early on, the first meeting I had, acknowledging that county jails may notify ICE of the release date of an inmate, just as long as they don't hold them past the time they would normally release them. We now have the ability to arrest criminal aliens in the safety and security of jails throughout the state at the time they're being released, like we've done in other states. I've also directed the strategic placement of officers in certain areas throughout the states that can respond quickly to sheriffs that want to release somebody and notify us. We need to be nearby so they don't hold them unnecessarily. So we worked on a strategic plan to reassign officers in those key locations. Arresting a public safety threat and the safety and security of a jail is safer for the alien, it's safer for the officer, and safer for the community. I think we all can agree on that. It requires less resources for at-large operations. It just makes sense. I'll say it again, as I've said many times, we are not asking local law enforcement to act as immigration officers. I don't want them to be immigration officers. We're the immigration officers. We just want them to be cops. We're asking law enforcement to coordinate with other law enforcement to help keep public safety risks out of the communities. We have also strengthened our existing coordination with the state to target and take custody of criminal aliens more efficiently and effectively. As a result of our efforts here, Minnesota is now less of a sanctuary state for criminals. And we are proud of the public safety threats we have removed from the criminal aliens out of the state. As I said in my first press conference a couple weeks ago, President Trump didn't send me here because the operations were being run and conducted perfectly. I came here to identify issues and implement solutions to improve our mission execution. Since that time, in order to improve target enforcement operation, I and my team here, we made personnel changes. We integrated BP with the ICE teams. We established a single unified chain of command structure. We strengthened joint intelligence and targeting capabilities. We deployed body cameras. We increased the footprint of internal affairs. We commuted zero tolerance for misconduct. President Trump also deployed me here to work with state and local officials to de-escalate the intense, volatile reactions and conflicts that have unfolded on the streets here between federal law enforcement and unlawful agitators. While working to course correct and improve how enforcement operations are being run and executed here, and even before I was sent up here, I've been saying over and over that forcibly assaulting, resisting, opposing, impeding, intimidating, or interfering with a federal law enforcement officer is a crime in violation of U.S.C. 111. It's not okay. It will not be tolerated. Zero tolerance if you cross that line and put hands on a nice officer. Not only is such activity unlawful, it is dangerous, and sadly we have seen tragic consequences, as well as adverse impacts on businesses and the communities here in the city. While the Trump administration supports everyone's First Amendment right to freedom of speech and assembly and to petition, it has to be done lawfully and peacefully. Because we will not tolerate unlawful actions committed by agitators who are just causing havoc. This is not the way to express your disagreement or try to reform federal laws. Go talk to your members of Congress if you want the laws changed in this country. Nor is doxing federal law enforcement personnel and their families, it's just not right. Enough is enough with this misguided, reckless, and shameful behavior. We don't want to see any more bloodshed. I don't want to see any more bloodshed. I pray every night for the safety of our law enforcement personnel and the safety of those in the community, whether you're here legally or illegally. I don't want to see anybody harmed. If you break the law, we're going to arrest you. We have already arrested more than 200 people for violations of U.S.C. 111. The U.S. Attorney's Office has already accepted many for prosecutions, and some are still pending. I have also received commitments from state and local law enforcement that they will respond if federal law enforcement is being impeded or assaulted. They will shut down unlawful agitator activity, including arresting agitators involved and seeing them follow through. And we're seeing them follow through on those commitments. We've seen this past weekend that the state and local law enforcement have taken action when it comes to public safety. And bless them for doing that. Since I have been here, I've repeatedly emphasized that the unlawful and violent agitator activity is unacceptable and must wind down as a condition for further drawdown of law enforcement personnel. I cannot remove law enforcement personnel while violence poses serious risk to our officers. I will not leave my officers in that position. It is worth knowing that in all my meetings and discussions since I got here, I've not heard one federal, state, local law enforcement, or judicial official, nor any member of the business or faith communities that I met with, say that ICE is the opposite. All I've heard is the acknowledgement that federal immigration laws passed by Congress do exist, and ICE has a legitimate responsibility to enforce those laws. ICE is a legitimate federal law enforcement agency. We're not out scouring the streets to disappear people or deny people their civil rights or due process. In addition to taking public safety threats off the street, ICE here in this state have located 3,364 missing unaccompanied alien children. Children that the last administration lost and weren't even looking for. That's because of the leadership of President Trump, these children were located. As part of the de-escalation efforts, I have called on state and local officials these past few weeks to tone down the rhetoric and denounce unlawful activities being conducted by the agitators. We don't have to agree on everything, and we definitely do not. But we all agree that the lawlessness and chaos and disruption that is occurring on the street needs to end. I want to thank Governor Walz for his messages focusing on peace and his support for the Minnesota State Troopers to respond to unlawful situations that put federal officers and the public at risk. I also want to thank Mayor Frey for taking a public stance against agitators setting up barricades that block streets and endanger public safety, and for directing the police to take those roadblocks down. Additionally, I want to thank Police Chief O'Hara, Sheriff Witt, and various other local law enforcement for their responsiveness and efforts to maintain law and order in the streets. We've seen a big change here in the last couple of weeks. And it's all good changes. I'm also pleased to report that we're seeing a notable decrease on unlawful agitator activity here in Minneapolis and overall throughout the state. This is great news for Minnesota communities that have been adversely impacted by the lawlessness and chaos on the street. We have what we call here QRFs, Quick Response Force. security teams that get called out when ICE officers are out doing operations. They get into trouble if agitators get out of control. If there's a danger and public safety is at risk, these QRFs respond to help these officers get off the X and get out of that situation. I asked today when I got here, I want to know what the QRFs call outs are, what their deployments are. I want to know every time a QRF is called out. The QRF deployments have dropped dramatically because we have less of that occurring, less of the agitator that cross that line. That is a good thing. That is a win for everybody, not just for the safety of law enforcement officers. It's a win for this community. With that, and success that has been made arresting public safety threats and other priorities since this surge operation began, as well as the unprecedented levels of coordination we have obtained from state officials and local law enforcement, I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude. A significant drawdown has already been underway this week and will continue to the next week. We have a lot of work to do across this country to remove public safety risk who shouldn't even be in this country, and to deliver on President Trump's promise for strong border security and mass deportation. Law enforcement officers drawing down from this surge operation will either return to their duty stations or be assigned elsewhere to achieve just that. We will continue to enforce Title VIII immigration law throughout this nation. Prioritizing national security threats and public safety risks makes sense. But I'll continue to say over and over again, if you are here in the country legally, you're not exempt from our immigration laws. If we encounter you, we'll take appropriate enforcement action. For those that say we are backing down from immigration enforcement or the promise of mass deportations, you are simply wrong. Look at the data. Record number of arrests and deportations under President Trump's first year. And we'll continue that effort. Prioritizing public safety threats and national security threats doesn't mean we'll forget about everybody else. We will take action on everybody else. That's just a stone cold fact. A small footprint of personnel will remain for a period of time to close out and transition full command and control back to the field office, as well as to ensure agitator activity continues to decline, and that state and local law enforcement continue to respond to ensure officer and community safety. Additionally, federal government personnel assigned to conduct criminal investigation into the agitators, as well as the personnel assigned here for the fraud investigations, will remain in place until their work is done. I will also remain on the ground for a little longer to oversee the drawdown of this operation and ensure its success. In closing, I want to thank the leadership and senior management that I've worked with for your efforts into these issues, determine deficiencies and challenges, present solutions, and implement improvements that will benefit how operations are run and executed nationwide. God bless the men and women of ICE, men and women of the Border Patrol. Appreciate everything you've done for us. Also, with sincere gratitude, President Trump and I want to thank the men and women of ICE and CBP and partner agencies who have been assigned here during Operation Metro Surge. You achieved a great success for the Minnesota communities. Thank you to your families as well, because I know they sacrifice also. Thank you, President Trump, for your vision, as well as your support and confidence in these brave, dedicated patriots that work hard to deliver on your strong commitment to law and order, public safety, prosperity for American communities. Today, we have the most secure border in American history. We are seeing record numbers of people being arrested and deported. Your promise to make America safe again is being played out every day on the streets of this country. I've said it many times. I worked for 6 different presidents, 10 different administrations. No one has done it better than President Trump. God bless this great country.
That was Border Czar Tom Homan, among other things, saying that the ICE surge here will be having a significant drawdown in the next several days.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are skeptical of his words, but, I sincerely hope that it is genuine and that the people of Minnesota can begin to heal from this traumatic last month.
Yeah, and shortly after he spoke, Governor Walz spoke more or less kind of as a response to that, and we're going to go to commercial and we're going to play that back. But like you said, I do agree. I think there's a lot of people in the community that probably are, kind of, they'll see it when they believe it in a way.
100%.
So, yeah.
It wasn't quite like people were shooting off fireworks and, throwing confetti around. It was more so like, yeah, we'll see it. We'll believe it when we see it.
Yeah, and Governor Walz spoke on this, and so we're going to go to commercial. When we come back, we'll hear what the governor had to say about Border Czar Tom Homan's statements. And we just heard from Tom Homan, and we're about to hear now from Governor Walz his response to what Homan had to say.
Yeah, much like the rest of us, Governor Walz expressed cautious optimism, but also called for some accountability.
That's right. That's right. Let's hear what the governor had to say.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to start today expressing a deep sense of gratitude and a deep sense of pride to my fellow Minnesotans. Over the past 6 weeks, the state of Minnesota and the people of this great state have endured an unprecedented federal invasion in all aspects of life. Our sense of normalcy was shook to the core. The trauma that's been inflicted, certainly across an immigrant community, but to every single Minnesotan, is unlike anything we've witnessed. We've been through challenges. We've been through natural disasters. We've been through COVID. But this is something that I don't think any state has ever experienced. And through that entire time, the dignity, the compassion, the love, the care, and the absolute determination to do what was right never wavered amongst Minnesotans. Whether it was standing in minus 40 degrees temperatures or it was delivering food to a family that simply wanted to feed their children. Minnesotans never wavered. And for that, I will be forever grateful. I think it's probably safe to say the rest of the country will be forever grateful, because they showed what it means to stand up for what's right, to stand up for the true principles of this country, to stand with the Constitution, and to stand with human decency. And so I want to note that the announcement today by Mr. Homan, we are cautiously optimistic, as we've said, and that this surge of untrained, aggressive federal agents are going to leave Minnesota. And I guess they'll go wherever they're going to go. But the fact of the matter is, they left us with deep damage, generational trauma. They left us with economic ruin in some cases. They left us with many unanswered questions. Where are our children? Where and what is the process of the investigations into those that were responsible for the deaths of Renee and Alex? So while the federal government may move on to whatever next thing they want to do, the state of Minnesota and our administration is unwaveringly focused on the recovery of what they did. And there will be many steps in this process, many answers that we still need to get and will pursue. But as we started earlier this week, one of the first things we can do, and what we're focusing on today, is what can we start doing on the economic recovery, the damage that has been done to our economy, specifically to small business owners, and even more specifically to immigrant small business owners, which for every other administration and for most of our history is the epitome of the American dream. Come to this country with nothing and build something to be proud of, build something that creates jobs, build something that creates this incredible diversity and a food scene across this state that is second to none, to entrepreneurship, to the work that they've done. Meeting a few weeks ago down at the Hmong market, and a gentleman who came here and got a food stall, and 3 of his children are now medical doctors that went through American universities to become medical doctors to help make this state the best for health care. Those are stories we should be celebrating, not dangerous police chases through peaceful neighborhoods, not little boys in little backpacks being hauled away, and not mourning of parents and family for American and Minnesota citizens being killed on the streets. So, Minnesota, on behalf of not just this state but the country, thank you. That same energy now needs to be directed towards recovery, to finding ways that people have done during these challenging months to go forward. So I want to say this damage is still being assessed, but we do know, and you're going to hear from some folks, you're going to hear from Henry, you'll hear from Commissioner Verlick about where we're at on the front end of this, and we're going to be proposing a reinstitution of our Small Business Emergency Fund. It's what we used very successfully during COVID in the recovery, and the economic recovery that we saw in Minnesota that outpaced most of the rest of the country. We're going to be proposing a first-time $10 million one-time targeted loans, forgivable loans, that we know, and I want to be very clear, is a very small piece of this, but what I am going to challenge as we get ready to start here in a few days, the legislative session, this legislative session needs to be about recovery of the damage that's been done to us. I am also asking our team, and I'm going to make appeals to our federal delegation, the federal government needs to pay for what they broke here. There are going to be accountability on the things that happened, but one of the things is the incredible and immense costs that were borne by the people of this state. The federal government needs to be responsible. You don't get to break things and then just leave without doing something about it. So we're going to be asking the federal delegation to be investing and doing the things necessary. We have been in contact with federal leadership as a negotiation is happening right now on DHS funding and all of the things that we have an expectation, whether it be the investigations, whether it be going forward, no masks, because this, I got to tell you, one of the things, and I'm in contact with a lot of my colleagues, both at the federal level with the Senate and the House, but especially governors. I don't want these folks showing up somewhere else and doing this. So the changes that need to be made, the investments that need to come back, they need to show, they being the federal government and they being this administration, they need to do more. But I'm not going to hold my breath that the federal government's going to do the right thing. What I am going to do is I'm going to bet on the people of this state. And when we come into this legislative session, an expectation is this should be a bipartisan effort to protect these businesses, to protect what we have in Minnesota, to make changes here to improve this state. That should be very easy. And I think we've seen just some of the data surrounding this. There's very few things in this state that are more unpopular than what just happened to us. And there's few things that are more popular than recovery and supporting small businesses. So Minnesota, I know you've been through a lot. I know that we're still in the deep part of winter, but it's going to be 40 today here. The sun's going to be shining, probably a pretty good metaphor for spring is out there, summer over the horizon, but it's going to take a lot of work. So the expectation is of myself and our administration and the elected leaders, we get busy in this legislative session and start repairing the damage from this, start putting in safeguards that it doesn't happen again. And I think using the momentum that we have to celebrate, Minnesota's reputation has been pretty well solidified out there of caring, gritty people who back down to nothing and do the right thing for their neighbors. And I think now we continue that same attitude into this legislative session and into this recovery to help the folks standing behind me and thousands of others to get back what they do best, creating jobs, creating opportunities, creating a good life, being able to see their children go off to school and then celebrate by, watching a baseball game when things start up here this spring. We're not asking that much, but there's going to be work to do. You've got our pledge that we will do everything possible to make that happen. And today is a very small first step, but it is a concrete step that can make a difference.
That was Governor Walz responding to Tom Homan's announcement and really praising the people of the state of Minnesota.
Yeah, the people did a whole lot of work to help make this done, get this done. And it looks like, the brighter day is on the horizon, whether it is today, tomorrow, next week, a brighter day is on the horizon. And Governor Walz understands there's still a lot of work to be done. This is just the beginning. Yeah,
Governor Walz even referencing the weather as kind of a metaphor of like you saying, the brighter day on the horizon. And also acknowledging, the damage that, he feels has been done here, and it's going to be a long road to recovery. This $10 million small business emergency fund he's going to try to start up. So still a lot of, like you said, Max, a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I know a lot of these businesses are struggling, and it's going to be hard to get them back up on their feet. So hopefully, this drawdown can happen with rapidity, with haste, and we can get people back in the streets and back in these restaurants, and workers back feeling safe, and kids back feeling safe, and everybody, kind of trying to find a normalcy again after this new normal is over.
That's right. After this commercial break, we're going to be welcoming in Fox 9 reporter Rob Olson to help us break down not only what Governor Walz had to say, but also what Tom Homan had to say, and kind of get his perspective on all this. So lots to unpack. It's been a very busy Thursday here at Fox 9.
Yeah, some big headlines that we've been all waiting for. And now we're just waiting for Rob Olson, who's going to join us right after this commercial break.
to the afternoon shift. Max, we just heard from Tom Homan. We heard from Governor Walz, and now we're going to have Rob Olson break down all this for us.
The man we really want to hear from. Forget those other guys. A man of the people.
Oh, well, thank
Rob
you.
Olson.
I'm just looking around to try to figure out where all the cameras are and which one is which number. So
That's
there,
yours right there.
yeah, I see the red lights over there,
Yes.
and then there's one up.
Yes.
Oh,
There's the
back
big-
there.
We got a bunch of them.
Yes. Yeah. Welcome to Studio 9.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You've become. This is like your second appearance here. Yeah.
yeah. I like it in here a lot. You guys,
Yeah.
this is great.
We like having you in here.
I appreciate it. Yeah. Been a very, very busy day. A lot to take in. I know you guys just went over some of the what Governor Walz's reaction there, showing also Tom Homan's announcement from this morning. It's a lot to take in. The governor on Tuesday had referenced that there might be an end in a matter of days rather than weeks, and so he sort of telegraphed that something like this could be coming. And then we're hearing it today that this significant drawdown happening this week and then into next week. So, very interesting. It'd be nice to get, Tom Homan spoke for 25 minutes today. So he talked about a lot of stuff. There's still a lot of questions though about some of the, what has happened over these last couple of weeks, even in more detail, that led to these changes. He talked about unprecedented cooperation, and it's trying to get a handle on it, and we're all trying to get a handle on, okay, what is the unprecedented cooperation, and what was the cooperation prior? What exactly has changed? And the sense I get is that it's not just the cooperation that they are getting from local, say, county attorneys, sheriffs, but the cooperation they are also giving, the two-way street. Because I know, I don't know if you guys heard any of the testimony in the Senate hearing in D.C. today.
Play it next.
Yeah, with Commissioner Paul Schnell. And he talks, too, during that and in various points about sort of a lack of communication between the state leaders like himself and then the sheriffs, et cetera, and the ICE officials. It wasn't just a lack of cooperation, because there are some limits to cooperation, but no communication. And Tom Homan has come in and had multiple daily sit-down meetings with people to have that communication. He said that didn't really exist before. And then there was another sheriff that I spoke to, too, to ask about what has changed, who said, nothing really. We've always cooperated. I'm like, he said, one thing that we're doing differently and others are doing too is that when we release people into their custody that they have detainers for, we would always tell them before, but he said now we've decided we are able to do that within the confines of the parking garage instead of just letting them out the door, the normal release door, and that doesn't violate the law. But he also said that they are getting more communication from ICE to say, hey, we're going to be doing an operation in this area, or we're doing a stakeout in that area, so that they know ahead of time. Not that they're going out there to be part of that, but they know that if it leads to some sort of need for public safety, they have a heads up that they are there, whereas in the past, they had no idea. It wasn't, the police would have no idea until 911 calls came in saying, either from agents or from the public saying, we need help. Police didn't know that they were there at all. And so that's part of it. Kind of interesting to try to really dissect what's happened here.
Yeah, and we were talking about it a second ago. It wasn't necessarily like a pop champagne moment, the confetti's not falling from the sky. You've seen a lot of people showing, being a little bit skeptical. Even Governor Walz said it himself. He said he's skeptically optimistic. Should we be skeptical?
I think in this, I would say no. Just based on what we have seen and heard out of Tom Homan and what people have said about their interactions with him, including what we heard from Commissioner Schnell in D.C. today, where these face-to-face meetings that they've had with him have been just very straightforward. That that Tom Homan was a police officer before he got into, immigration duties, roles. And so these folks that have met with him say that they feel like he's very straightforward and they feel like they can trust him. They can believe his word. And so if he's saying that they have a significant drawdown going this week and that'll continue into next week, I think a lot of people say that we have no reason not to believe that. But of course, at this point, there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, we'll see what happens, and we'll feel better when that happens. So, but we've certainly, it's felt like over the last few weeks that there has been sort of a tonal change. There's still a lot of ICE activity. If you look at the places that are tracking local ICE activity, there's still quite a bit of it out there. But what I feel like we have seen less of, and this is just, again, feeling, we've seen less of those videos popping up on social media that say, like we had seen so many where they're breaking windows and pulling people out of cars, or some of those other types of instances. I feel like some of those we just haven't seen as much of. I feel like we haven't heard the folks who say that I was pulled over, racially profiled. That's anecdotal. We're not hearing about that. I'm not saying that that's not happening. I'm just saying we're not hearing about that as much, which seems to be a tonal shift. I don't know. So.
Governor Walz, one of the big talking points that he had was talking about this $10 million small business emergency fund. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, and I listened to that news conference too, and this was a news conference that was already planned. We got the release yesterday about this today to talk about small business. He had a news conference on Tuesday at the market at Malcolm Yards in Minneapolis, over kind of near Surly. It's a great food hall if anyone hasn't been in there. You're talking about the effect on small business. So what he's saying today, and this is a proposal. The legislative session begins next week. And so part of the governor's budget proposals or funding proposals is this. So the legislature would need to approve this one-time emergency funding of $10 million made available to small businesses who have to prove that they were affected. And so they're drawing a parallel to the COVID-19 pandemic era small business assistance. Prove that you've been negatively affected by this surge, by Operation Metro Surge, and then forgivable loans between $2,500 and $25,000. So, but again, this is pending legislative approval. It'll be interesting to see, where this goes. If this remains, is something like that going to remain as politically divided as some of the other aspects of the immigration enforcement? Is the help to small business something that crosses party lines, because it's not about immigration, it's about small businesses that were affected. So we'll see. But there's a number of bills that we'll see that we've heard talked about that people are planning to introduce related to this next week. Interesting to see how a drawdown, how that may change some of those bills.
Hopefully those local businesses, those small businesses, can get the help that they need, because I know a lot of them are struggling out here.
Some of them, very much so. They, either from lack of customers, depending on which neighborhoods that they're in, or lack of employees. Or both. With fear of. Again, some of that racial profiling fear, and some of the stories where you hear people that are legally in the country, they're not citizens, where they have green cards or they're in an asylum process. So they didn't enter the country illegally. They were allowed to be here. ICE knows that they're here. But they have a lot of fear because a lot of these, in some of the refugee or asylum cases are being re-examined. And so, that's part that gets lost here, is a lot of the people that are afraid aren't illegally here. They're worried that that status, though, could be changed at a moment's notice, and they're afraid to even test that.
Yeah.
So.
We heard from Walz, but I'm just curious, have you read or heard anything from any other local leaders and kind of their reaction to Homan?
We had a number of statements that got emailed out, and I was so busy today I didn't have time to read them all because I was, watching all these in this hearing in D.C. that I was trying to absorb as much of as I could. Lasted over 4 hours, so I bits and pieces there. I know Mayor Fry put out a statement. And we did confirm, because everyone's wondering if he's going to hold a news conference. We did confirm he's in New York City, that he is there to meet with the New York mayor to discuss strategies for blue cities on how to deal with immigration enforcement actions. So that was, I believe, already planned. We'll see what comes out of that. So he hasn't had a news conference. I think he was maybe going to do some cable news while he was out there in reaction to this. But beyond that, no, I don't have any other reaction to this beyond what we've heard.
What's next for Minnesota from here? We're hearing this is going to be a number of days. Homan said this will go into next week. Max, you bring up the champagne. Are we going to have that confetti moment where it's like this is done, this is over?
I don't.
It's in the books?
I would think you wouldn't see something like that, just due to the nature of especially since we have street memorials for two people who lost their lives. I think people will be more measured about some of this. What happens from here is, Homan said it would draw down to what the normal number of immigration officers here, which is about, I think he said about 150, if I remember right. So immigration efforts will continue. Certainly some of the relationships he's been able to forge with sheriffs and jails, et cetera, will help those because, again, I think a lot of this leading up to his arrival was, I'm old enough. I'll make this. It was like a bad Three's Company episode, which that was, the 70s sitcom, which every episode was based on miscommunication.
Oh,
yeah. It was the hijinks that happened because somebody misheard something. And I think a lot of that was, lack of communication that led to some of the escalation. So I don't know. I'm curious to see, the presence outside the Whipple Federal Building, and that has changed a lot in the way they've added the barriers and the fencing to try to keep, and this isn't to try to cage people up. I know people get that feeling, but really it's to try to prevent any of the close contact that has led to some of the tear gas incidents, and you're just trying to keep a barrier there. Because they can hear them. Last week, I was right up at the front doors at the Whipple Building to talk to Congresswoman Morrison, and you could hear the folks protesting loud and clear all the way across the parking lot. So I mean that their voices and their feelings are still loudly heard there, despite that. Anyway, it'll be interesting to see because that's been a daily activity. What does that look like going into next week? I think you won't see people give up on that until they know that the enhanced part of the operation is done. They may still continue because there's folks that always have strong feelings about immigration enforcement, period, that would prefer to see ICE abolished in its present form and, U.S. immigration laws reimagined from the ground up. So that'll be interesting to see how that changes out there or if it does.
Yeah.
Three's Not Company with you, Rob. We love having you around.
Is that reference lost on you guys?
Oh, no. I
know
know
that?
Three's Company.
Yeah.
John Ritter.
Yeah.
Jack Tripper.
Tripper and Chrissy and, see.
Wait,
yeah.
doesn't it go, come and knock on my
Door.
Yeah.
Come and knock on my door.
Someone's waiting
For you. Yep. Yeah, and every episode
all that.
was
Oh, yeah.
miscommunication. And so I know that's become sort of like, over the years, it's like some of these things where you just kind of say, oh, Three's Company, miscommunication or lack of communication led to deep misunderstandings. And, this isn't a sitcom in this case, and that it is. But, I mean, this is real life. And it's unfortunate that depending on how much is based on communication issues, it's unfortunate that it would come to that. It's good based on the people that I've talked to and heard from that the communication seems better. That they say that there was confusion over the immigration detainers, the ICE detainers, and you heard that they're not honoring our detainers, until Commissioner Schnell said we let you know when they're released. People I talked to said in meeting with Homan, he was unaware of the level of cooperation that was happening before he got here. He just heard that there was no cooperation. And then he was unaware, as were others, that the way Minnesota law is, and these are based on court cases that led to precedent about not holding people past their release, because ICE detainers typically have, please hold them an additional 48 hours so we can pick them up. And Minnesota doesn't do that, but that was because a couple counties were sued, lost the lawsuits, and now the precedent is if you do that, you're going to get sued, and based on legal precedent, you will lose. And these county boards and administrators, et cetera, say, don't do that because we don't want to, we'll lose money, taxpayer money. Homan was not aware until he got here. It was the sense that I'm being told about that. And then he immediately understood that and why jails were doing what they did and worked through that. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting time. The post-mortem on this, looking back and saying what went wrong, what portions of this went right, if you want to call it that, to lead to this drawdown, and how can that be applied in the future? That'll be interesting.
Yeah. One thing you talk about is that Senate hearing that happened today that you were listening to with Attorney General Ellison and Paul Schnell, the Commissioner of the Department of Corrections. We're going to play that back when we go to commercial break, and we'll give the viewers a chance to hear for themselves. But in the meantime, thank you so much.
Sure. No problem. It'll be interesting. We hope to talk to Paul Schnell next week for his own kind of look at, and he's not been shy to talk, but his own look at now in hindsight, what were the key problems, what were the key solutions, and what are the key next steps here?
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Well, thanks, Rob. We appreciate it.
You bet.
Thank you. We'll have that hearing that took place on Capitol Hill coming up right after this. It's not company, man.
Yeah.
We got 3 here again.
No, Rob left, and then he came in, knocked on our door. Came in, knocked on our door. So he's like, come on in. Come back in and join us for another segment.
Well, what you're about to show here, I saw part of and not an extended part of it because I was flipping around between monitoring different things. So you caught my interest here.
Yeah, this was a viral moment if you were out on social media, a real sparring between Missouri Senator Josh Hawley and Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison. Got a little feisty. Let's take a look at what they had to say to each other.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Ellison, let me start with you. You're the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. Do I have that correct? That's a yes?
Sir, you're aware of my job. You know the answer to that.
You're not going to answer my questions? Are we going to start this way? Are you the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, yes or no?
You know the answer.
Mr. Ellison, you're in my courtroom now. You're under oath. So I suggest that you answer my questions. You the Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Minnesota, yes or no? Let's try another question. Are you familiar with the $9 billion in historic fraud out of your state, including the $250 million in the Feeding Our Future program alone? You familiar with that? Don't turn to the pages in your book to get your potted answers. Are you familiar with it? Yes or no?
Yes, I am familiar with it.
Very familiar, aren't you? Because the people who ran the Feeding Our Futures program came to you in your official office in the state capitol December 11th, 2021, and asked for your help in getting investigators off their backs. They complained to you for upwards of an hour about state investigators going after them, and they begged you to help them, and you agreed to it, amazingly. And we know you did.
That's not
because
true.
It's all caught on tape.
Yeah,
Every single sentence is caught on tape. Here's what you said. Let's
And
take a look.
obviously you didn't listen
said,
to the
it's not a
tape.
question. You said to them, send me the names of all these folks who are investigating them. You said to them, send me their names. And I'll take that list, and I'll call the person over at Education who is investigating them and say, what's going on? Why am I getting these complaints? Then he went on to say, I already have my team working on this. What day should we get together to discuss it again? You made pledge after pledge to them. You said, we've got to make sure this guy who's investigating them stops it. You said, you have my attention. I'm concerned about this. You said, let's go fight these people, meaning the people who are investigating the fraud. Why'd you do it? Why'd you help them?
Are you going to let me answer?
Please, we're all ears.
So first of all, you're cherry picking quotes out of there.
Why did you help
I
them?
thought you were going to let me answer.
Why did you
Are you
help
going to let
them?
me answer?
Why did you help
You
them?
let me answer and I'll answer you.
Tell the truth and I'll let you answer.
I will tell the truth.
Good.
Let's do that.
That'd be a nice change. Why'd you help them?
Now see, Mr. Chairman, I didn't come here to be insulted. I came here voluntarily.
You came here for the truth. Let's have it. Why did you help them? The quotes are here. They're in black and white, and every member of this audience can listen to the recording. It's 54 minutes long. It's all in public. You can Google it right now and listen to it.
And listen to it all.
Why'd you help them?
First of all, I didn't help them.
You did help them.
No, I did not. I certainly didn't.
You're saying you didn't do anything for them. You didn't.
Well, wait a minute.
I already have my team working on this again. That's not you?
I have my team assisted with the information that led to the prosecution and conviction of these people.
No, you didn't. You didn't lift a finger to prosecute them. No, you did not.
No,
You didn't
because
lift a finger
it was
to
a
prosecute
federal
them. You had,
prosecution.
BS. You had whistleblowers come to you as early as 2019.
You're the one talking BS.
Hey, listen, it's my time.
Doesn't know what you're talking about,
Oh,
sir.
no, sir. You now have encountered the truth and you don't like it. Why'd you take their money? Why'd you take their money?
I didn't.
You took $10,000.
No, that's a false statement.
$10,000 9 days after the meeting.
False statement.
You took $10,000. Here's what happened. They went to your office. They solicited money from you. They solicited help from you.
That's also wrong.
They came to your office. It was your official office. You met with them for 54 minutes.
No, they didn't.
They asked you for help. You pledged it to them, and they talked repeatedly about money. In fact, it's all they talked about.
That's a lie.
Money, 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 money. They said, we will put our dollars in the right place. We will support candidates that will fight to protect our interests. You replied, that's right. They said, if you are securing your donor base and securing your power base, you can act the way you want. You replied, money is freedom. They said the amount of money circulating, I'm reading the transcript, the amount of money circulating in our community today is powerful, and we haven't realizing it in a meaningful way. And you said, give me the specifics. And 9 days later, you took $10,000 from people who were then indicted. It's in your reports. Why'd you do it?
Sir,
was it worth it?
You know what? This is a theatrical performance.
10,000. This is the truth.
It
This is
has
what
nothing
accountability
to do-
looks like, of which you've had none.
No.
You helped fraudsters defraud your state and this government of $9 billion, and
Sir,
you got a
this is-
fat campaign contribution out of
This is
it.
completely
You ought to be indicted.
untrue. Well,
That's the truth.
I think we've made the point. Let's keep the tenor
Well,
just
for
a
the
little more
record,
calm.
Oh, I'll ask how I want
he's
to,
lying,
Senator Paul.
and that's the truth.
Oh no, this is all on the record,
no, sir.
Did you bother
You are-
to? Did you bother to investigate where the money that you facilitated their fraud for, where it went? Do you know where it went, what it was used for, the fraudulent money? I do, because we just heard testimony about it yesterday.
Because we
the
were
funds
key
went
players
to
in the
hundreds of millions of
investigation.
dollars to terrorist
Yes, we
groups,
do
to
know.
transnational criminal organizations, to the drug trade, to drug trafficking, to child trafficking. And you took $10,000
That's a lie.
and helped them do it. You know, the
It's
other
an
thing is,
untrue statement.
whistleblowers came to you as early as 2019. Let's look. As early as
This is
2019, whistleblower. Don't talk over me.
No,
as
no,
early
you're
as
talking over me.
2019, it's my hearing, pal. As early as
I'm not your pal.
2019,
Don't call me pal.
whistleblowers came to. Well, I should call you prisoner because you ought to be in jail.
Well, we'll see what you can
In
do about it.
2019, whistleblowers came to you in your office and referred to you fraud allegations from Feeding Our Futures, and you blew them off. Listen, your own state newspaper
That's a
investigated
lie.
it. The Minnesota Star Tribune, the Partners in Nutrition, brought its concerns to the Attorney General's office in 2018 and in 2019, and you did nothing. You did nothing for years. The only action you took is,
false statement.
once all these fraudsters came to your office
It is a
and asked
false
you to get involved
statement.
and offered you money,
Did not come to
then
my
you got
office.
involved.
They
Then
did
you
not-
took the money,
they
and then
did-
you got involved.
They did not come to my office. You're completely wrong about that.
You met with them
I did
for
not take anybody's
54
money.
minutes, and you took $10,000, and they also gave your family money. They gave your family thousands of dollars in campaign contributions in addition to what they gave
a false
you.
statement.
Let's put the
This is
sign
this is
back up.
completely untrue.
The New York Post.
Yeah, we know the New York Post.
Minnesota Keith Ellison, AG, accepted campaign donations from individuals linked to the $250 million COVID fraud scheme after they were in your office.
Not-
The donations came on December 20th.
Sir,
you
this
met
is
with them
not-
on December the 11th, and on January 20th, the FBI knocked over their headquarters.
No.
That's the sequence of events here.
No, it's not.
You've
the
been
sequence
right
of
at the
events.
center of this fraud
not
thing
the
from the
sequence of
beginning,
events.
and
It's
you've
untrue.
enabled it. And, sir,
The false
you
statement-
should resign.
And sir, you should
should
resign. I
resign.
was thinking the same thing about you.
Should resign.
You,
Thank
I was
Mr.
thinking
Chairman.
the exact same thing about you.
I'm sure after encountering
Yeah,
this
yeah.
truth, you are, because it hurts to have
because
accountability, doesn't it?
Because after this parade
It
of
hurts to have
lies and
accountability.
presentation,
Time has
I think you should be
expired.
ashamed for misrepresentation.
Time has expired. Senator.
Well, that was interesting.
That was real. That was the United States Senate today. That was not a skit. That was real. If you heard a voice in the background trying to calm down Senator Josh Hawley there, that was Kentucky Senator Rand Paul trying to be the voice of reason. In the
Yeah,
room. But,
I'm just looking for an old email here that I got from Ellison's office regarding this phone call that he's talking about. And that's not it. Hang on.
I think the big headline from that, at least the big soundbite takeaway, was Hawley saying, this is my hearing, pal, and Keith Ellison saying, don't call me pal, I'm not your pal. He's like, I should call you prisoner. You ought to go to jail. And he's like, we'll see what you can do about it. You don't see that often from senators talking to attorney generals like that.
Yeah, it got pretty personal there pretty quickly.
It got
Yeah.
personal, yes.
So I did a story on this exact recording that they're talking about because it was part of the way it came to light is that it was a piece of evidence for the trial of Amy Bach, who was the founder of Feeding Our Future. It was not used in court, but it was listed on the evidence list. And so we got the recording from Amy Bach's attorney, as did other media, because he didn't use it because even Amy Bach's attorney didn't feel that there was enough on there to either exonerate Bach, that it wasn't useful in his case defending Amy Bach. And so I had listened to the whole thing. I got a copy from him and a statement from the Attorney General's office. And here's the script that I wrote that day. This is in April of 2025? I'm sorry, pardon me. Yes, April of 2025. It's an audio recording of a meeting with Attorney General Ellison and several other people, including Amy Bach. She was recording and then saved it and on her phone. I don't think it was made aware that she was recording. It was from December of 2021, just a month before the FBI raids into Feeding Our Future. The group identified themselves as the Minnesota Minority Business Association. They had a Facebook page active for a few months. In the meeting, several who were later indicted complained to Ellison that state agencies were acting racist towards East African businesses. He said he'd make some calls. He says just getting the inquiry from the AG is sometimes enough to make people knock it off. So they were saying, hey, racist issues with the state agencies. But they didn't say anything about Feeding Our Future or meal sites at that point. It was 14 minutes into the meeting when they brought up the federal food program, and he said, wait, what is that? And he seemed unaware. In a news release explaining this, said when the AG arrived, he had agreed to meet a friend, said when he arrived, surprised to find others present, but agreed to meet with them. The FBI had asked everybody not disclose the existence of the investigation into the food program to anybody. So they're kind of saying that's why he sort of played dumb in this meeting about what is this, is because he knew about the investigation and the FBI said, don't tip the hand to anybody that we're investigating them. So that's the way they explained it at the time. And that's what Josh Hawley was getting into, excerpts from that audio recording. There was campaign donation issues. I got to read this again. Ellison did not ask for them in the recording. And again, this is based on my notes. I listened to the whole thing. When others brought up donations several times, he told them this meeting wasn't about his campaign, but several donations were made about a week later. So he didn't ask for anything. He deflected, saying this wasn't a campaign issue. There were donations made. That's the context for all this. And clearly, Josh Hawley, with Ellison there, saw this as a very prime opportunity for him to really launch into this really scathing questioning here.
Yeah, and that hearing was supposed to be about ICE, like you said.
Yeah, about immigration. Yeah.
It turned into a real circus kind of there at the end.
Yeah, but the fraud allegations here in Minnesota, and there's, Feeding Our Future is about $250 million in fraud. And then now there's some of these Medicare programs and housing, et cetera, programs that the FBI has been investigating and the U.S. Attorney's charging out. So, that still is very much a hot topic. But this was about, excerpts from this meeting that, was really weird. It again, I listened to the whole thing, took a lot of notes on it. It was not kind of the way it was represented there.
With giant, signboards and everything. He had the whole theatrical get up ready to go.
Yeah. But that was a good example of, and it's not just this hearing. It's a lot of congressional hearings on particular issues that get very heated because they become very partisanly divided, right? You can think of any number of them over the years where it just turns into it's interesting, or it's, I don't want to use the word entertaining, but it catches your attention.
For sure.
But then to sort of dissect what, separate the wheat from the chaff, as it were, in those can be tricky but interesting too.
Absolutely. Well, Rob, we appreciate you being around with us.
Sure.
Thank you so much. Yeah. We're going to be talking about this Ring surveillance ad that made headwaves at the Super Bowl coming up next.
Yeah, everybody's been talking about it ever since it happened, and we're going to get the expert's opinion on the fallout and what Amazon's done since then.
That's right. Lisa Martin coming up right after this commercial break. this Ring ad during the Super Bowl took the nation by storm. Everybody was talking about it.
Yeah, not in a good way. I think it freaked a lot of us out, myself included.
Yeah. It was called a Search Party, and there was a huge controversy behind it. Here to help us break it all down is tech strategist Lisa Martin, a friend of the afternoon shift. How are you, Lisa?
Good, guys. Good to see you. And I want to say Happy New Year, even though it's February, because I haven't seen you except on social.
I know, right? Happy New Year. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. We're happy to have you back in the fold.
My pleasure. So I'm a dog mom, guys, and I have two very escape-happy Labradors. One's the leader, the other's the follower. So on the surface, I loved the ad. To me, it was emotional. It was really well done. And it showed like neighbors helping neighbors reunite lost dogs on Ring's network. But for a lot of viewers, you guys alluded to this yourselves, they were like, hold on. This isn't really about dogs. This is about how tech is making things possible that we don't like. Like, does this mean that AI is scanning video across this massive network of cameras that I don't have access to? So what happened like instantly, and I don't think Amazon or Ring was prepared for this, was the shift from a feel-good community story to this technical reality of large-scale video analysis. That's where people started getting really uncomfortable. So I think what happened unintentionally was that the ad normalized something really powerful without the company really explaining it up front. Like, what does it mean for you as a user and your privacy?
And what specifically like about this kind of AI has, advocates of privacy feeling a little uncomfortable right now?
Guys, there's two concerns here that I see. One is scale. So the ad showed like this whole neighborhood of network cameras getting together to help find your lost dog. But the other is a normalization. So Ring and a lot of other camera operators, they already offer features that can identify familiar faces for homeowners, which a lot of folks see. That's why I installed the cameras. It's convenient. Then there's the flip side, which sees this as really intrusive. So when you combine that mentality with AI, that's now so much more evolved. It's capable of, it can analyze video patterns across a really wide network of cameras. Critics say, are we lowering the bar for broader tracking? So I don't think the fear is what it's capable of doing today. I think it's how comfortable are we with these powerful identification tools that are just becoming part of our everyday lives without us knowing and without really clear limits or transparency from the device owners.
Lisa, to that point about being able to track familiar faces, just last week we did a story on government surveillance, potentially, taking notes on people that have been involved in protests and rallies here in Minnesota over the last month.
Yes.
Do you think that this Ring search party thing could just be sort of a Trojan horse, if you will, to larger efforts by the government to really kind of start taking notes on people at large here?
Guys, this is such a good question. With where we are, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Amazon came back in a reactive mode, and they should have been proactive with this with their marketing team and said, okay, search party, this is literally designed to help reunite people with dogs. Mm-hmm. This is not about processing human biometrics. And they said there's privacy controls. People were like, hang on. But what we do know from a law enforcement perspective, to your point, Adam, is Ring is formalizing a way, and this is just one camera company, for police to more easily request footage via third-party tools. We know that Ring has a new partnership with Flock Safety, for example. They say sharing of data is opt-in for individual owners, but critics say, does this further integrate Ring, for example, into law enforcement evidence gathering? And does this, without our consent, expand this broader surveillance ecosystem?
And kind of off the back of that, Lisa, we saw smart cameras play a pivotal role in the case that's kind of taken the nation's attention over the last week or so. Nancy Guthrie's mother being kidnapped and held for ransom, and we kind of saw the role of smart cameras in that. And it sounded like from Kash Patel's tweet that they didn't think that they had access to such information. Could you kind of go into the smart camera's role and what did he mean by that?
Yeah, and this is so significant. I couldn't figure out for the last, the first 10 days, how do they not have any data? Well, Nancy Guthrie had no active cloud subscription. So law enforcement originally and erroneously thought the footage is gone. But what we now know as of only 2 days ago was that some data was already transmitted to back-end servers before the camera was removed. So what the FBI did is they had to work with Google engineers. We're talking about a Nest camera. Google owns Nest. The FBI, they were able to actually extract residual data from those systems. But it just shows it's so complicated and how sophisticated digital forensics has become, but also how we have to think now, connected devices, they can generate evidence beyond what we know they're storing. And that transparency and knowledge has got to be as important as the innovation itself.
Lisa, right at the top, you said that when you first saw the ad, you really liked it as a dog owner. And I know that there's probably others out there. And obviously it's become very polarizing, this ad. Yeah. Do you think it was a successful ad? I mean, we're still talking about it, and we're what? We're 4 days after Sunday now.
Yeah.
This is the only ad that anybody is talking about.
I know.
Do you think that Amazon and Ring got what do you think they were intentionally trying to create this conversation?
I don't. I think and I'm a longtime marketer, I think what brands need to do is understand as technology continues to advance, which is amazing, and we get so many benefits from it, the everyday person that's a consumer of it is going, wait a minute, what's in this for me? Where does my data go? I'm not paying you for a service, so what are you doing with this? I think what they should have done, and like I said, innovation and transparency and guardrails have to be done in parallel. You can't bolt on transparency as an afterthought. And that's what happened here. Now, they're getting talked about a lot, but they're also getting a lot of existing customers I've talked to in the last 4 days alone going, hold on, what are they doing that I'm not aware of? Did I consent to this? They're saying, no, there's no human biometrics, it's opt-in, but they should have been upfront in the beginning, and they weren't.
Lisa, I mean, the main question I think that everybody that came away from that ad with that was feeling uncomfortable is, should we be concerned? Is there reason for us to be concerned? I'm just, you've kind of been answering that throughout this interview so far, but just straight up, do you think we should be concerned?
Yeah. I'm so in the middle, guys, because I can see as a moderate personality and as a tech person, all the great applications, and the middle, and the really bad applications. And a lot of them are people. I think what we've learned is that I don't think it's panic. I think we're at this stage of awareness, because what I do know about cameras is they aren't constantly streaming everything. Most of the devices, they are basically event triggered. So they activate when they detect motion or when you access your feed. But now we know, even if you don't have a subscription, some data that's being transmitted to these layered back-end infrastructure systems, because that's just how the device functions. So what we also learn, and what we should be, I think, not concerned but aware of, is not saved doesn't mean never transmitted. At the end of the day, if a device connects to the cloud, there is some level of data movement happening. And in rare cases, that data can become evidence in some good cases, but it has refreshed concerns about smart home devices. How much data are they collecting and storing? What are the privacy implications? And as an owner, a user of the device, where are my safeguards? That's the question that tech companies in every industry have got to address upfront. It cannot be bolt on.
I guess this begs the question to end here. Will you keep your Amazon Ring device?
I don't have one.
I must have misheard you. I'm sorry.
But so the good thing is that several things have come from this since 2 days ago with the Nancy Guthrie cases. Security experts saying, instead of having a doorbell camera that is accessible easily to a potential intruder, have a camera that is 8 to 10 feet up, that is hardwired, not Wi-Fi, because those can be faulty, so that someone cannot actually easily access it. I think we're in this day and age where security folks in every industry are saying you need to, from a homeowner perspective or a consumer perspective, have these devices on every entranceway, but do so in ways that allow you to know what data is being collected. And the companies have to be much more forthcoming with that information, guys, which they haven't been, but also so that it ultimately is protecting you, but you know what it's doing and where the data is going.
Well, we don't need access to your data to know you're the best of the best, Lisa. Thanks for joining the show again.
Same, guys. Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Bye.
Thank you. Really fascinating ad there, and like I said, we're 4 days after the Super Bowl. We're still talking about it, and its ramifications.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think there's anybody talking about it in a positive sense, but we are still talking about it for sure.
We are talking about it. We're also talking about the Olympics and Team USA hockey. I don't know what the score is of the men's team. There's probably
I think it's
somebody out
over.
there. It's over.
I think the game's
did
over.
the men win? We're looking this up right here now.
I'm trying to find out right now. Yes, they did. They
men
did
beat Latvia.
indeed win. It looks like.
Okay.
They took a 5-1 lead on the most recent updates on ESPN.com.
Well, that's a good omen because the women's team has scored 5 goals in every single one of their games as well. So now the men have scored 5 goals in their first game. Lots of hockey to break down. The men and the women now, this means that they have won their first 5 games of the Olympics by a combined score of 25-2.
Let's go.
Let's go,
Yeah,
USA.
absolutely.
Jesse Pierce, our friend, she's going to help us break it all down here coming up next.
Yeah, one of the best hockey minds in the state of hockey. She's coming up next on the afternoon shift.
Having too much fun watching the hockey.
And
huh?
she was. The boys wrapped it up a little too quickly. They ran away with it. It looks like it's about 5-1 right now, and I think it's close to the end of the third period, if not the end. So Jesse, she's got to do her Bar Down Beauties thing. She's got to do a post-game show. So we gotta miss out on Jesse Pierce today.
We'll miss out on Jesse Pierce, but we're going to bring you back to the Senate floor for the opening statements of both Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and Minnesota Department of Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell during their Senate hearing today with an assortment of senators. Take a look.
Thank you, Chairman Paul, and thank you, Ranking Member Peters. And thank you to all members of the committee. I'm Keith Ellison, and I'm the Minnesota Attorney General. Since early December, Minnesota has been the site of Operation Metro Surge, the largest single deployment of ICE agents in the history of the United States, the largest single immigration enforcement surge our country has ever seen. The surge has caused real harm to our state. Members of the committee, I respectfully ask you to exercise your oversight powers to do the following things. One, require ICE to provide a full, transparent accounting of everyone stopped, detained, arrested, and deported from Minnesota during Operation Metro Surge. Two, require ICE to document the conditions of its detention facilities and to allow attorneys, healthcare professionals, clergy, and elected officials full access. Three, require the FBI to conduct investigations in partnership with Minnesota into the deaths of Renee Good and Alex Preddy and into every other use of excessive force. Four, require ICE to stop masking, stop the racial profiling, stop conducting warrantless searches. And finally, pass comprehensive immigration reform. I was so encouraged years ago when Senator Langford was leading that effort. It needs to be renewed. One question any rational person might ask is why? Why is this happening? Because it simply doesn't really make sense. Every rationale the administration has offered for this surge is really a pretext. The government has said the purpose of the surge is to fight unauthorized immigration, yet Minnesota ranks 28th among all states in the percentage of undocumented immigrants. Florida and Texas alone have nearly as many undocumented people as the entire population of the state of Minnesota. The government has said the purpose of the surge is to fight fraud in government programs. Well, of course, I hate fraud, and my office and I are already fighting it. We've convicted 300 people of Medicaid fraudsters in the last 7 years. The government did not surge, however, forensic accountants to Minnesota. They didn't surge in, computer experts. Instead, they sent 3,000 masked, armed men who are now kicking in doors, demanding papers, killing Minnesotans, not fighting fraud. The surge has hurt the fight against fraud. Because of it, a wave of experienced prosecutors have left the U.S. Attorney's Office in Minnesota, and the remaining staff are now drowning in a flood of habeas corpus petitions. The government has also said that the purpose of the surge was to fight violent crime and rid our streets of the worst of the worst. And yet violent crime rates in Minneapolis were falling before the surge. Furthermore, ICE's own data shows that 77% of those it has detained in Minnesota have no criminal record at all. Notoriously, some of those detained have been children. Is 5-year-old Liam Conejo Ramos the worst of the worst, or 10-year-old Elizabeth Zunia Castaguano? The surge is contributing to violent crime, members. It's contributing to violent crime. 2 of the 3 homicides committed in Minneapolis in 2026 have come at the hands of federal immigration agents. Recently, the government has said the purpose of the surge is to gain cooperation from state and local officials and immigration enforcement, but the Minnesota Department of Corrections already follows state law that requires Minnesota to notify federal authorities when a non-citizen incarcerated for a felony. Second, under Minnesota law, no jail can keep someone incarcerated on an ICE detainer longer than they're otherwise legally allowed to incarcerate them. This is not unique to Minnesota. Several of our federal and state courts have reached a broad consensus that aligns with our law. So after dismissing all of the pretexts, what's clear, this surge is all about what Donald Trump said it was all about. In a true social post on January 13th, he wrote, "Retribution and reckoning was coming to Minnesota." This war on Minnesota is retribution, to be sure. Our policies, our values, and how we vote, and it comes at a great cost. Senators, it comes at a cost of the lives of 2 U.S. citizens, Renee Good and Alex Preddy. It comes at the cost of shuttered businesses, Mr. Chairman, disruptions in education for tens of thousands of children, lasting harm to Minnesota's economic prosperity and social cohesion. And it comes at a cost, Mr. Chairman, to our Constitution. Under the 10th Amendment, the federal government may not compel or coerce states to enforce immigration laws or any other federal government priorities. And under the First Amendment, the government may not stifle speech or restrict the right of peaceful assembly. Operation Metro Surge routinely violates both these constitutional principles. So, Mr. Chairman, you'll never know how grateful I am that you called this hearing to discuss this matter. Mr. Ranking Member, I do appreciate it very much. The people of Minnesota care deeply about the health, safety, and constitutional right of their neighbors. And I have one final request of all senators, and that is directed to the administration. End the surge. End it now. It's already gone too far, and it must go no further. I yield back.
Thank you, Chairman Paul, Ranking Member Peters, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Paul Schnell, and I serve as Commissioner of the Minnesota Department of Corrections. I appear before you as a career public safety professional, a former law enforcement officer, police chief, and now head of the State Corrections Agency. What is happening in Minnesota is not a dispute about whether immigration laws should be enforced. What is in question are the reasons for the unprecedented federal actions in our state and the tactics being used. 2 Minnesotans, both U.S. citizens, are dead following encounters with federal immigration agents. That alone warrants serious oversight, particularly in light of federal officials' unwillingness to allow a shared investigative process. Oversight must begin by separating fact from fiction. Our agency has worked hard to bring facts to light. Accuracy is not defiance. The latest false narrative is that Minnesota is a lawless sanctuary where dangerous criminals are allowed to slip through the cracks. That simply is not true. My written testimony is extensive, but I'd like to highlight 3 points. First, Minnesota honors immigration detainers and has coordinated with federal authorities for many years. Any suggestion that we refuse to cooperate or harbor non-citizens is baseless. Second, President Trump's request that serious offenders be deported before they serve their court-imposed sentences undermine both victim and state justice interests. Third, the execution of Operation Metro Surge has had tragic consequences. What has resulted is not controlled, target-focused enforcement, but an operation lacking planning, discipline, and constitutional restraint. It is both possible to respect civil liberties and engage in meaningful immigration enforcement. We as a country need DHS to respect that balance. Minnesota's experience shows us that unchecked enforcement can lead to tragedy and a profound loss of trust. Constitutional rights are not partisan issues. Government power must be checked and balanced, and law enforcement must operate within the law. Chairman Paul, members of the committee, I am here because I believe oversight is urgently needed. Minnesota seeks a return to law enforcement agencies respecting each other's roles, where enforcement is proportional and constitutional, and where the public can trust that government power is exercised responsibly and transparently. We are not there today, but with your help and continued advocacy from leaders who value the constitutional principles, I am hopeful we can get there again. Mr. Chairman, thank you for inviting me. I am prepared to answer your questions and assist the committee's inquiry in any way I can.
Those are the opening statements of Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison and Minnesota Department of Corrections Commissioner Paul Schnell at the Senate hearing earlier today.
A little bit more measured than the clips that we saw earlier, and
Yes.
a little bit more on the subject matter, the intended subject matter.
Yes. That was it was a fiery Senate hearing. you haven't seen it, go to the Fox 9 social account to see the exchange between Keith Ellison and Missouri Senator Josh Hawley. It got very heated there earlier today. All right, we're gonna go to commercial break. When we come back, we're gonna talk about the Timberwolves' big win last night to go into the All-Star break, beating the Trailblazers, and then we'll be joined by Ian Leonard briefly to talk about the albeit, as you call it, the fake spring that we're experiencing.
It is. It's a fake spring out there, but it still feels good as the real one. One more segment to go on the afternoon shift. We'll be right back after this.
Sorry, Adam. I know your camera's off. We're gonna fix it, but there we go. There we go. So, I mean, it's not my connection, but my boyfriend actually did like clinics with Jessie Diggins. So, for those of you who don't know, she's from Stillwater actually, and she's a cross-country skier. She competed today, ended up getting the bronze medal. This story kind of reminds me of Lindsey Vonn because Jessie Diggins has bruised ribs. So again, it's not as severe as a torn ACL, but Jessie Diggins was able to, ski through her pain and secure the bronze medal. But right after she was done skiing, she just fell to the ground, like in complete agony. So it's just such a testament to how amazing these athletes are and the pride that they have for their nation. I mean, it's the ability to just fight through, and I can only imagine the adrenaline that they're feeling, but coming down from it, I mean, oh my gosh, like that'd be terrible. But she was able to secure the bronze, so I'm so happy for her. And yeah, she got a medal, and she didn't get more injured, it doesn't seem like. So
tend to be happier.
Yeah.
So shout out to Minnesota's bringing home. All of our Minnesotans out there are bringing home all the medals.
Yes, yeah, and a silver medalist last year in the Western Conference playoffs was the Timberwolves. They're at the halfway point now of the season. They beat the Trailblazers last night, 133-109. Good win, 3 straight wins, right? Going into the
they're
break,
actually believe it or not, because some of these wins, some of their losses that they've had recently have been so egregious. But believe it or not, they've won 7 of their last 10. They're flying high into the All-Star weekend, the NBA All-Star break. They'll be off for about a week and a half, just a little bit of time there. But they've won 7 of the last 10. Last night was a big one. Randall dropped 41. I think I would assume that's a season high for him. He's been balling all season. A lot of people are upset because De'Aaron Fox got chosen as an injury replacement for the All-Star game, and a lot of people are scratching their heads. Even national media, not just Timberwolves fans, because obviously we're biased, but national media scratching their heads going, how the heck did Julius Randle not get selected for this? I'm sure Julius Randle. But who's always an all-star?
Always an all-star.
Oh my God! He's about to take the whole studio down. Hey, what's good? You always bring some snacks. What is that? What are those?
Are these
look
filled
delicious.
pretzels? I like these. I like these.
My wife calls them. Am I allowed to say the word sex on the internet?
I think so.
Oh, okay, good.
Streaming.
My wife calls these sex in.
Those are beyond excellent. Those are excellent.
Are they crazy?
Those are
really
excellent.
All I do is bring snacks.
Ian, who are you rooting for in the Olympics? Are you more Team Canada or Team USA?
Okay. Great question. Rock, hard place, me. So, my brother-in-law is a very famous hockey player.
Really?
In Canada. Not anymore. He just retired a few years ago. My brother-in-law is Jerome McGinley.
Oh my God!
Okay, wow.
And so, when it comes
Royalty.
to Olympic hockey, I'm really hedged in there.
For sure.
Yeah, his daughter is, her name's Jade. She plays at Brown. She will be playing for, hopefully, the Canadian women's Olympic team next go-round.
Sweet.
And his son was drafted 6th in the first round for the NHL by Utah.
Okay.
So,
the Mammoths.
in a long kind of name-dropping way, weird flex, I know, I'm really married to Canadian hockey.
That's a big deal.
You know, and so I love that aspect of it. Olympics in general, I don't know what it is, but I'll watch anything.
Yeah, me too.
I'll watch like double men's skeleton, and I'm like, what are they doing? I can't believe it. I've never seen anything like this. And, people will call and be like, what are you doing? I can't talk. It's men's double skeleton. It's like everything blinders on.
You're locked into it.
No, I was telling Adam, I was like locked in on Big Air over the weekend. Like I was a fan that watched every weekend. It's a sporting event, not a lobbyist.
My wife and I were like, man, boy, did he really nail that 1280 with the backside duck grab.
That's the best. I was sitting at the bar with the beer and we're watching figure skating. I'm like, look at this bozo. This guy doesn't know what he's doing.
Guy can't even do a triple Lutz.
He wasn't doing a backflip.
Did you see the angle on the quad?
Right. He didn't get a full rotation on that spin.
He
didn't get a full rotation.
That was half a rotation.
The figure skating is what just impresses me so much.
Have you ever seen it live?
No,
never.
I wish I did.
Okay, look, I know there's a lot of people like, it's figures. You go live and you watch how athletic they are. When they take off for one of those big jumps, they literally fly. I saw Kurt Browning years ago, a famous Canadian figure skater. I was down at ice level while they were practicing.
Wow.
And they took off, and he just kept going. And he just kept going. And he's spinning. And he just kept going. Incredible. And I'm like, oh my God.
How is it possible?
And then he lands and he's like, Shazam. I'm like, I can't even walk on an icy driveway.
Yeah, no,
I'm like
right.
down on my butt.
Right. I couldn't do that on flat feet, let alone on the ice.
So, I mean, there's just this amazing, and I think all athletic sports are like that, especially in the Olympics. Biathlon. They ski with guns.
Yeah. It's incredible.
And then they get to where they're going to shoot and they're like, they're trying to bring their heart rate down, and then they shoot, ding, 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 and then they put the gun, and then they skate.
It's unbelievable.
I'm like, all of these, I will watch them all, and I will cheer for them all. When it comes to Olympic hockey, my heart's going to stay in Canada. But I'll watch, as long as it's the Olympics, I'll watch it.
I'll watch anything.
I went to the World Track and Field Championships. They were in Canada, and I saw Marion Jones run. You know, you see these speed skaters, they're going 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
The downhill skiers, the men are going 102 miles an hour.
It's absurd.
Marion Jones, this is me. I'm going to reenact my time at the 100 meters. So we were sitting on like a 50-meter line, and we had good seats, and, you know, it's like the gun goes, and I go like this. And the race is over. That's it, it was like watching a car drive by. I mean, they're so fast and so magnificent and everything they do. But it was over so fast, I was like, yeah, you want to go get a beer?
Yeah.
Let's go get a beer.
Well, there's that, right.
We just saw the fastest woman ever in the world run right by it.
That's crazy.
That stuff, if you could find a way to bottle it and do it every year, and I know there are lots of competitions around.
Yeah.
Here's what I would tell you, and you know exactly what I'm probably going to talk about. The athletes at Special Olympics.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you come with me to an event and you see, you know, standing long jump, there are some magnificent athletes with Special Olympics. Some world-class marathoners.
Yeah.
But there's also other athletes who can do 2.5 inches standing long jump, and the crowd stands up and goes crazy.
Yep.
And you feel this. I don't know what it is. It's something that just charges your body.
Yep.
And you feel like I need to know more. I need to do more. How can I get more involved? And that was always my thing years and years ago. I went to one competition. I'm like, how do I help?
Right.
Who do I talk to?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's kind of, you know, that ABC Sports, like the victory, the thrill of victory, the agony of defeat. It's all of that. Sports does something to our brain, our amygdala. I mean, it just charges our core. And I think everyone's got a sport that they love.
Yeah.
I mean, I love double luge.
That's where they're on top of each other going down the.
So
That's crazy.
bizarre.
Yeah.
I wanted.
How do you figure out the combinations? How do you figure out that you're good at that?
You're right.
By the way, you know, like is it just like a flirtatious thing? You know, it's just like I was doing the single one, but I think I'd be better.
Here's the way it works. You know,
were partners,
Max, when you came to us and you wanted to do the bobsled, and we said, very good, and it's good. We've got something else we'd like to do. Maybe bobsled's not for you.
How about Bob sleds on you?
And suddenly you're the bobby guy, and you're going 70 miles an hour down ice, and you're like, this isn't quite what I signed up for.
Yeah.
But at the end, you're like, that's pretty good.
I got a medal.
I'll go again. I get a fancy suit.
Right. Yeah.
And in luge, they don't wear shoes. The suit has these little booties. And
It looks
they got
crazy.
The cats on the hands. I'm like, I love it all. I'm in.
We learned this week. I didn't know the curling ice was that was not smooth. It was whatever. Yeah.
There's a lot of
pebbled.
Pebbled.
I'm a curler.
Oh, you're a curler too.
I'm a curler,
I'm trying to get into it.
Okay, so growing up in Canada, I would take, depending on the day, I'd either take my hockey gear or my curling gear on the bus to school.
Yeah. Wow.
Because right after. And then every neighborhood has a hockey rink or a curling rink. And so I would go and throw rocks after school. Yeah. And so the little bumps on the ice, that's called pebbling.
Yeah.
So they'll go with a sprinkler, and there's a guy who goes like this. And he's really good at going backwards, and he's got a backpack, and he goes like this. And all all these sprinkles go in the air when they hit the ice, they freeze. And that's what the rocks grip onto or don't grip onto and move. All the rocks, all the good curling rocks in the world come from one tiny little island, uninhabited Scottish island, where the microgranite comes from.
Wow.
And it's, if you understand, curling is a beautiful sport. It's ultimately so strategic.
Yeah.
And it's really, really hard. I got to curl with a whole bunch of ex-world champions last summer here up in Blaine. And I'm going to be doing it again this.
I would love to come. I would love to come.
I'm sitting there interviewing some former world champions, and I'm like, I am fanboying, like I'm sweating. I'll go anywhere. I'll interview anybody. I'll do anything. I'm like, so what was it like when you won the world championship? And they're looking at me like, dude, what's wrong?
Hey, Ian, I got to call a timeout on your story. You got to get the hell out of here, man. You got a job to do,
I
brother.
like being here with them. Thank you. Here, I'll leave
Supposed to be
this.
warm or something, right?
It's
Yeah.
gonna get warm.
Yeah, we'll tune into you. It's coming up in like 30 seconds.
Ian's going to go do the news.
He's going to go do the news. He's coming up next in about like 15 seconds here. We're signing off for the day, but we'll be back same time, same place tomorrow.
On Friday, Valentine's Day Eve tomorrow.
Yes, Valentine's Day Eve, and we're sending our hearts out to all of you. In the meantime, I'm Max Fuller.
I'm Adam Lorenz.
Signing off for Grace Henry and Paul Milgate. The 5 o'clock news starts now.
This is Fox 9 News at 5.
Thank you for joining us here.